friends. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and this is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. I think some of you know that I started my career in audio as a high-end audio salesman at Sound by Singer in New York City in the late 70s. It was a great time to jump in. It was the golden age, in many ways, the golden age of high-end audio, because everything was changing, growth was amazing. Really, the main topic of today's video is to tell you where I'm coming from as a reviewer, because I had the advantage of doing demos for thousands and thousands of people over my 16-year run. So I sat in a room, played a turntable or an amplifier or a speaker or something for people, and we had a conversation about the sound. And hearing people's reactions to the sound that they just heard, and I was present with them as they heard it, was fascinating. Because some people would say that bright speakers were dull, or dull speakers were brighter, or speakers that didn't have any bass had tons of bass, or just all sorts of things that weren't really reality-based. But we would have a conversation, and I would try to get into their head. In a lot of ways, I was an audio shrink, because most people, most of my customers didn't really know what it is they wanted. They wanted to get a better thing, right? Better speaker, amplifier. But they weren't exactly sure. And in those days, people weren't so dependent on reviews, right? They depended more on their direct experience of hearing the product for themselves. So that changes everything. But having these conversations over years and years and years, pre-digital, because I started in the 70s before digital was a thing, and then the growth of digital starting in 1982 with CD players, that was also incredible to live through, because when the CD came out, people had this expectation that it was perfect, that it had no frequency response errors, it had better stereo separation, it was lower in noise, it didn't wear, all these things, that CD was perfect and that records and turntables were going to go away in a matter of years. And here we are 40 plus years later, and turntables are still around. Certainly for not all audiophiles, but for a significant chunk of the audiophile community, turntables are still extremely important to those people, including me. But the thing about customers and what they said they wanted and what I played for them, I really had the feeling sometimes that they were BSing me, right? Because they said, "Oh, I want to buy speakers, $1,500," and I would play them $1,500 speakers. If a customer said, "Hey, I want to hear $1,500 speakers," I would play $1,500 speakers. I wasn't trying to sell them $2,000 speakers or $3,000 speakers. I'd play $1,500 speakers. But a lot of the time, after I spent an hour or two or three playing $1,500 speakers, they'd say, "What about those $2,500 speakers? What about those $5,000 speakers?" I'd say, "What were we doing for the last few hours?" Well, in any case, sometimes I felt like I was being used basically as an equipment jockey for my customers, who were just there to have entertainment, and I was going to be their slave for a few hours. It happened. But sometimes they genuinely didn't know. And instead of just saying that, in other words, they didn't know how much they wanted to spend for a piece of audio, they would set a price, and I would always conform to their price and never try to, at this point, sell up to anybody, sell them a more expensive piece. They said the number, I would always hit the number. And sometimes they were just there to explore and hear stuff. That's cool. I appreciated it when they came right out and said it like, "Hey, I'm not going to buy anything today or possibly ever, but I'm curious about hearing blah, blah, blah." And if the store wasn't busy at that moment, I would say, "Sure, I'll play you this stuff." In the middle of my run as a hi-fi salesman, Sound by Singer moved from 33rd Street, which was sort of a medium-sized store, at least by New York City standards, to a much larger space on 16th Street. And we took a lot of time designing those rooms, how we wanted them laid out and everything. We were starting with a clean sheet of paper. And this room that we had designated for the Vandersteen 2C, which was one of our most popular speakers at the time. We really loved that speaker. We sold lots of them, and we wanted this room, this dedicated room for that speaker and others, but primarily for the 2C to sound great. Well, the best laid plan. So when the room was all done and we started listening to the Vandersteen in that room, we were not happy. It was very bassy, very thick sounding. The speaker sounded much better than it did in that room. We knew that because we heard it in customers' homes and we heard it in other rooms in the store. But the room that we really needed to play it in, it wasn't a great sounding room. And yes, we did try room treatments and bass traps and stuff, which helped, but basically the problem of the room was the problem of the room where we thought, oh my God, we're gonna really lose sales now because the speaker doesn't sound right anymore. They kept buying them even though they bought more of them because in fact they wanted more bass. And it's not true for every single audiophile. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm bringing it up now to point out to you that if you, dear viewer, really like bass, that other people think is too much, that's cool. You know, it's your system, it's your life, it's your music. Make it sound like what you want it to sound like for you. That's an unbroken rule. You just shouldn't go there. You should buy the system that makes you happy and that makes the music that you like sound good. Then I have to cover spouse acceptance factor. And that was a very real aspect of selling audio, and I'm sure it still is, that the audiophile and their significant other may not be on the same page as to what the audio system should be, what it should sell for, how it should look. And that has to be taken into consideration. In any purchase, especially a hefty purchase of audio, it's going to be living with you, so the spouse acceptance factor is real. And by the way, it's not, forget about spouse acceptance factor. What audio looks like, and I've mentioned this before in videos, is huge. We don't talk about it enough. The audiophile community doesn't fess up to the fact that they want something that looks a certain way, or looks really good, or looks really impressive. That those are also very real factors. And in my salesman's days, when I would show my potential customers products, sometimes they say, oh, that's too ugly, I don't like that color, and they just kept saying no, 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 no. I would say, I got a better idea. Why don't we just take a stroll through the store and just point to things that you find attractive, and then we'll work backwards from there, so I'll have a better fix on what it is that you want, because again, you are going to be living with this thing. So how it looks is, it's not a small issue, really. It's significant. And when I've told this story before, and what it feels like, yeah, that's where I'm going. What it feels like, if it's a preamplifier or a turntable, what it feels like when you touch it, because you're going to be using it all the time, that is also a factor. Matter of fact, I used to see my customers touching the gear, right? They would walk up, they'd be turning the knobs, pressing the buttons, flipping the switches and stuff, because that tactile aspect of owning audio is, or was, and I assume still is, a major, major factor. Like this Audio Research LS28 SE preamp I'm reviewing right now, the knobs feel, the turning of the volume control, it just feels so silky and smooth. It's pleasurable. It's just pleasurable to turn that knob. So yeah, how it feels and how it looks are very significant. And again, I'm telling you all this because I've seen it. I've lived with it, with customers doing it. So that informs part of the way I approach doing reviews. Is I'm using my experiences with people and hi-fi to sort of do it to the invisible customer. You know, because some people say, "Hey, Steve, it's like you're selling this stuff." When I give I do really positive reviews, you're selling it. And I said, "Yeah, maybe because I do come from sales." Oh, one other thing that really bugged me, that when customers would ask me about products that I don't sell, it was put me in a very uncomfortable position, because what am I going to say? No, what I sell is way better than the others, and by the way, those things that I don't sell break, they burn. No, it's just, you can't ask the guy selling the Ford whether the Chevy is better. It's just, no, it's, what's the use of that? And it wastes some time. During those years of being a hi-fi salesman, of having the experience of demoing endless combinations of gear to people and hearing their reactions and hearing some of that gear in their homes with other stuff that I didn't sell, it was an amazing education and a terrific preparation for what I do now. Because now I just hear products in succession, basically. I hear one, then the next, then the next. Working in a store, I heard, vast combinations of gear. It was fantastic. And if you are lucky enough to have a store that you can get to that's close enough and you like it, wow, you're lucky, because you can do that right now. Most people, unfortunately, it seems, don't have a brick and mortar dealer that they can count on. So if you got it, use it, enjoy it, because if you don't, it's not going to be there forever. Yeah, my name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you dig it, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you really like what I do, you should also check out the Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/audiophiliac. And yes, I will link to that directly below. What else? Well, we got playlists. We have playlists for speaker reviews and electronics reviews and headphone reviews and music reviews and interviews with so many fascinating people. So, plenty to see in here. Don't go away so quick. Thanks so much for watching, and I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.